Hello, we're in the new Autumn rehearsal rooms for Play Pint, and we're rehearsing the first play of the new season, and I'm with David Ireland, the author of the play, and it's called Trouble and Shame. One of the nice things about being with David is that we produced David's first play for the theatre here, and it's lovely to have a writer who's gone on to become so successful and so varied, and then comes back and gives us another play. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Tell us a wee bit about Trouble and Shame.
Well, it's about a Glaswegian called Hunter Baxter, who is very disturbed and unhappy about the news that he's seeing from Northern Ireland, and decides to kidnap the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland and put them in a room together to get them to come to an agreement. And of course they're not happy about this. And lots of comedy and drama ensues.
Yes.
But I've just been in for the first time in rehearsals this morning, and it's a brilliant cast and a brilliant director, and it's all looking very funny and very good. It's Philip Breen is directing it, who's terrific. And Paul Riley and Rowie Jack and Ronnie Lear, who are all brilliant. So it's a very talented and very funny group of people to be in a room with.
I was interested when you first sent me the play that in some regards, I think in Scotland, people sort of put Northern Ireland to one side after the peace agreement. What this play to me is suggesting that although there is a peace agreement, a lot of the underlying tensions are still very alive.
Well, I wrote a version of the play like a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and I mean it was much the same play, but I did think at the time when I wrote it that was a little bit sort of not quite relevant because things were quite peaceful, but things are very difficult at the minute in Northern Ireland, so actually the play has become a bit more relevant than it was.
Why do you think those difficulties have resurfaced?
Oh God, I mean it's a huge question. I think there's all sorts of reasons, but I think in many ways, although it's very disturbing what's happening, I think on the whole it's quite positive in some ways, the way it's being dealt with. I mean, I think it's, I guess what I'm really saying is that if all this had happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, somebody would be dead by now, and thankfully that hasn't happened yet, because I think that suggests that although things are still bad, we've actually moved past murdering each other. Which is always a good thing.
And in a way, that is what has allowed you to be so funny about it.
Well, I mean, I've written some very sort of dark plays about Northern Ireland, but and some very darkly funny plays. But this is quite. I mean, it's quite a serious subject, but it's still a very light comedy, and quite farcical as well. I suppose if people were really killing each other, then it would be harder to write that kind of play. And in some ways the play is a sort of a celebration and an affirmation of peace, even though all three characters are constantly arguing and fighting with each other. I suppose it's better to be fighting each other in a political arena rather than a military arena.
You ply your trade and journey frequently between Belfast and Glasgow.
I do.
And you obviously feel equally at home, theatrically.
I think so.
So in every other way. So it'll be interesting to see the audience's response in Glasgow.
Well, funny, this play actually reminds me a lot of What the Animals Say, which was my first ever play and my first play on Oran Moor. And that was sort of about that was drawn from my experiences of being a Northern Irish Protestant actor living in Glasgow. And this is really my second play about the sort of strange relationship between Northern Ireland and Scotland. And I think that comes from the same experience of being Northern Irish in Scotland, that, a lot of Scottish people, as you say, don't sort of put Northern Ireland to one side, don't really care much about it, don't engage much with it, and that's fine. But there's some people, as we all know, they're very passionate, on either side about, Northern Ireland and what's going on over there and their heritage and their history. And yet when you get into conversations with those people, they have some very funny ideas about Northern Ireland, and there's a weird sort of sectarian, if you grow up in a sectarian society like Belfast, it's weird to come to a place like Glasgow and experience sectarianism here. It feels very surreal,
Yeah.
So I think the play is about that, is about, these two sophisticated politicians who meet this man who thinks that he knows more about Northern Ireland than they do. But actually it turns out that he kind of does as well, So I hope people will enjoy it anyway.
One of the things that struck me the last time I was in Belfast was still to see the pavements in some areas painted in a sectarian way. I mean, sectarianism is alive and well, sadly, in Glasgow, but it's perhaps not got quite the same street emblems that it has in Belfast.
Yeah, well, people like to mark their territory in Belfast, and
it's like a tomcat raising its leg on the
but you don't get that in Glasgow, and life is much more integrated in Glasgow, which it doesn't. Northern Ireland's still very heavily segregated.
But there is movement.
Yeah.
From what you say.
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, the truth is, I think at the moment where we're at, I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to turn out. It is a very dangerous sort of time in the peace process at the minute, and you've got a generation as well coming up now who didn't live through the troubles, and didn't experience the troubles. So that's a dangerous element as well. But who knows?
Well, I hope you're going to come see this play, but before we talk any more about that, I'd like to move on a wee bit. Because David is an amazingly busy and varied director, and I thought it'd be interesting if you told us a wee bit about some of the other things you're engaged on.
I will. I've got, I'm writing a play for the NTS at the minute, which I did a kind of rubbish first draft of, but I think I'm doing quite a good second draft, which is a comedy, but again a comedy about a very serious subject. It's really about religion, and not in religion in the Northern Irish sense, not about religious conflict, but about belief in atheism and so on. So it's quite a deep theme, but hopefully it's funny. So I'm writing that at the minute.
That's your trademark, isn't it?
Is it?
Take a really serious subject and laugh about it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't like I just like to write comedy, and it seems to come quite easily to me. Even if I'm trying to write a serious play, often it comes out quite funny. I mean, I've written a play which is being produced in Belfast next year, which is very serious and very unhappy. It's almost like a tragedy.
Where's that being done, David?
It's being done at the Mac in Belfast.
Oh yes,
new venue. Yeah, new venue, beautiful venue.
You were also writing residence at the Lyric.
That's right. Yeah. Last year, and I had I had a play on at the Lyric earlier this year called "Can't Forget About You," a romantic comedy, which went very well and had a terrific cast in it, and Karen Dunbar was in it, and Abby McGibbon, who was here in End of Hope, another play of mine.
Yes, and then Mary Jones's play.
That's right, then Fly Me to the Moon,
Yes,
that's right,
yes.
she's terrific. And hopefully that will come to Glasgow someday soon. There's talks about that.
And as we speak, you're working in another medium.
Yeah.
You're working in film.
Yes, I've written my first screenplay. It was an adaptation of a novel called Smokeheads by a guy called Doug Johnson, which is a really, really exciting thriller about four guys from Edinburgh that go on a whiskey tour of the Highlands and end up getting chased by these psychopathic cops that try to kill them. I've more or less finished that, so it's just waiting for that to get funding, and hopefully that'll get made soon.
Excellent.
So a lot's happened since my first play here, I'll say. So it's lovely to be back.
And are you still managing to do any acting?
Yeah, I'm actually acting this week, which is why I haven't been in rehearsals. I'm doing some filming on Shetland, the BBC.
Oh right,
series,
the BBC series.
Yeah, Douglas Henshaw one, and it's I'm I don't know if I should tell you what I'm playing, but I'm playing a very suspicious kind of character. So Yeah, it's,
I will resist the temptation to say typecast.
yeah.
Anyway, I really hope that you're going to come and see this first play of the season. It's funny, it's to the point, and it's been beautifully directed and performed as we speak in the room next door. Thanks, David.
Cheers,
Thanks very
Thanks
much.
very much. Yeah.